How stupid is that? Like, I'm taking advice from people. I don't care how I feel about them. I'm taking advice on them on how I should run my business. I ain't never done it. Listen, the most expensive thing that you're paying for is ignorance. And I don't mean that to be condescending. We've all paid that same price. But what I'm telling you is this. The things that you don't know are the most expensive things that you're paying for in the form of missed out opportunity costs. See, when I started investing in real estate back in 2006, and I thank God that I just started, right? Many people, they conceptualize, they internalize, and they do so much up here that they never do nothing down here. So I was one that just went out and took misguided or to no guided action. And you hear people say all the time, like, take imperfect action. That's exactly what I did. I went out and I started leveraging my refund checks in college, covering the down payment for people to buy the property from a friend of mine, and then when he flipped them the property, he'll give me a return on my investment. That's how I got started. So I quickly started buying rental property myself, 2006 and 7. And then, as we all know, the world fell apart, the market contracted in 2008. Many people ran for the hills. For me, I was fortunate that I wasn't jaded yet. I was so early into my career that I just looked at it as like that properties all of a sudden that I were paying $150,000 for a year prior were 30 grand, right? So I was very blessed and fortunate, and I took a lot of action back then, and I bought over 20 rental properties from 2008 to 10. I was 24, 25 at the time. The problem though is while I was out being opportunistic, I was still ignorant to a lot of things that were costing me, right? I was ignorant to how to go out and create strategic partnerships and leverage other people's money. And so everything that I had to do was all on me, right? I didn't have any partners, and everything that I did was out of my own checking account, which eventually everybody gets cash strapped. And I also was ignorant to that. I didn't understand that investors go through these cycles where they get cash strapped because all their money is parked in the deals. The strategy to mitigate against that would be possibly buying the right kind of properties that you can maybe do a cash out refinance on and pull your money back out, if you wanted to do that, right? I'm just giving you an example. Well, back then, banks had stopped lending money and all of that, so that wouldn't have been a formidable strategy anyway at that point in time. But I'm just thinking forward, because the idea of buying cash flow well below market value is that at some day, you would expect to exit and create and build more wealth. That's what all the wealthy has been doing for forever, right? Every 10 years or so, we have a market cycle, and they're able to take advantage of that by buying low, ride the market up, generate cash flow, build wealth over time through equity, and then sell it at the top, start the process all over during the next market cycle, okay? So just a few examples of how ignorance was costing me. So I got to a point where, I got pretty good at buying these properties, doing what I thought was enough in renovations to make them habitable enough for people to move into them. And I was making a pretty good go at it, right? Seemingly, comparatively speaking to my peer group, I was killing it, okay? Now being on the other side and with a lot of real estate education and being around, others, and just having 17 years of experience myself, right? I look back and I laugh at that part of my career, although I was really doing good, seemingly. And, it's interesting that because of this ignorance, because I didn't understand, how the market really worked, because I didn't understand why things were so cheap, because I didn't understand how to go out and convey and articulate my business model to somebody that could have potentially become an investor, because I didn't know all these things, right? It put me in a situation where these properties started needing a lot of work, and I'm talking HVACs and roofs, and didn't understand the dynamic of houses on the corner that had more of a tendency to flood. Didn't understand if there were, big trees in the backyard and the roots and what type of issue those caused in the sewing lines, and just a litany of things throughout this small portfolio that I built up that almost seemed like they all started to happen at the same time. Well, there was another thing I was ignorant to, and that was this thing called cash reserves, right? A lot of these things seem simple, and we live in the information age, so maybe you've been privy to them a lot more than I was at that day and time, but I just didn't know. And without coaching, you won't know. Without mentorship, you won't know. And without having somebody to glean from, you won't know. And that cost of ignorance is very expensive, so much so for me that when because I refuse to be a slumlord, right? Everything I still believe in is integral. I end up having to sell off my portfolio, 90% of it in a down market, 2012, 13, 14, before the market had recovered on that market cycle. And in doing so, you know, I end up, had I kept that same portfolio until the start of COVID, I would have exited and made about $2.5 million. So the thing that you have to consider is, if you're gonna plan on going out here and doing this business called real estate, do you want to make $2.5 million or do you want to miss $2.5 million? A lot of time that ignorance will determine which outcome that we receive. The 2.5 million that we make or the 2.5 million that we miss. So I'll leave that decision up to you, but I certainly felt responsible to give you the context of how, you know, we have to start looking at going out and making these incremental investments in our education, because education is beyond education, right? Education is, like I tell my students, I'm the navigation system, you driving the car. So it's beyond reading a book, it's beyond X's and O's. It's literally having a GPS showing you the best routes to travel, how to avoid the delays, how to avoid the detours, how to avoid the potholes, so that you can get to your destination more efficiently and faster, right? And for me, oh my God, when I finally found out about mentorship, first of all, I did not have it early in my career because I didn't want it. I didn't have it because I didn't know it existed. This is why proximity, again, is so important, because my peer group at that time, nobody ever talked about seminars and mentorship. So it was 7, 8 years of me doing the business on my own until I finally found one. And when I did, I paid that. I was the fastest paying client they ever had, because I had the weight of all of the deficiencies and the problems and the issues that I faced that I didn't have anybody to turn to other than the people that weren't doing the business. It's interesting how we don't think about this, right? When I think about it logically now, it's so stupid. But it never occurs to us when we're doing something and the advice that we're going to get are from people that aren't doing that, that should be a huge red flag. But because they're people that we know, trust, and love, we just assume that their advice is good counsel because we know, trust, and love, but they're not an expert in what we're doing. So how asinine is that? It's really backward thinking. Until we're on the other side, do we realize, looking back, like, how stupid is that? Like, I'm taking advice from people, I don't care how I feel about them, I'm taking advice on them on how I should run my business, and I ain't never done it. I can't imagine what they were thinking giving the advice. Like, he really asking me that? Well, okay, you know, I mean, and so, and the fruit of that experience typically would look like we got advice from people that didn't know what they were talking about, that they read in the book or heard from third-person experience. So I encourage everybody, right? I hope that this video was helpful in that just getting you to think a little bit differently about things, getting to highlight the unknown that's costing us so much because we don't know it. So we're smart enough to know what we know, we're smart enough to know what we don't know. But the thing that we don't know is what's killing us. And that's the part where we have to go and get enlightenment. That's the part where we got to go get coaching and mentorship. That's the part when we need to get a network of individuals who may be our peers or even our counterparts that are much further than us, that we can glean from and you know, really get to where we want to go in life much sooner, much faster, and much more efficient. If this video was helpful for you, please share it with somebody, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I bring this kind of content to you. And also, leave me your thoughts. Leave me a comment. I'd love to connect with more of you. I'll see you guys in the next video.